Hi, this is Ben Proisich with Remax, and today I wanted to answer the question, how do you go about selling a parent's or loved one's home who's passed away? It's a very sensitive subject. It's a difficult topic. Um, there's so much emotional, administrative, and financial stuff to work through in a transaction like this. I also have lost my dad. We did not sell the house because I still have my mom, but you still have to go through a lot of the admin and financial stuff um, that being an executor or an administrator entails. Um, so, um, the immediate task is really to determine who has the authority to transact business for the estate of your loved one. So hopefully your loved one had a will, and that will names an executor, and the executor then, once they're appointed by probate court, would have the authority to pay bills on behalf of the estate, receive insurance monies on behalf of the estate, sell property on behalf of the estate. So let's say you are named the executor in the will. You just can't automatically start doing stuff. You have to be appointed by the probate court. So I would recommend going back to the attorney who wrote the will for your parents, um, and have him fill out the paperwork and file it with the probate court to get you appointed. It's usually like a 30-day process. Sometimes it's quicker, but sometimes the courts are slow, and it can take 30 days to get appointed. And you receive what's called an appointment paper or an appointment letter, and with that, you can open and close bank accounts. You can pay off bills and that type of thing. You're seen as the person with the authority to do this. Now, if there is no will, that's a little bit more problematic. Then you have to go to the attorney of your choice, and hopefully with the consent of your siblings, have that attorney fill out paperwork to appoint you as an administrator. And that paperwork petitions the probate court to make you an administrator. An administrator is the same thing as an executor, except, the court is deciding who's going to be the administrator, not the will. The deceased person didn't have a will, so now the court is stepping in, evaluating your application, and hopefully making you administrator. And once you're administrator, you can do the same things that an executor could do. And then there's another option, which is your family may have had a trust, and the trust may have spelled out who's the trustee. In that case, you don't even have to have probate court. The trustee can just act. On behalf of the estate as it's spelled out in the trust. That's really the best way, but it takes a lot of planning and a little bit of expense to get a trust set up. And most people, I find, don't have trusts. Most people have wills, and there's usually somebody appointed as executor. And once you're executor, or administrator, one of the first things you have to do is set up an estate bank account. Because your loved one is no longer with us, their bank accounts aren't really going to be operative. So you need to set up an estate bank account. And then you'll do that at a bank. And then your attorney will also apply for a federal ID number. So the estate will get its own tax ID number. It's like a social security number for the estate. That's really step number one. And then step number two is secure the property. You have to get the property secured. Hopefully there's no issue between you and your siblings, but a lot of times mom and dad have given keys out to neighbors, friends, handymen, that type of thing. There could be a lot of keys floating around. And that personal property in that house is supposed to be divvied up, A, according to the will, and B, according to the executor's discretion, it's something you as executor can work out with your siblings and fellow heirs, let's say. You don't want unauthorized people coming into the house and maybe taking something. Oh, uh, Charlie told me I could have, his book collection. Well, that's not written anywhere, so you can't really, let Charlie go in there, and can't really let the guy go in there and take the book collection. So you want to secure the property, and that's done by changing the locks and making sure nobody could get in there without your permission. Um, and then once the property is secure, you want to go through and find your parents' papers. This is very important. You need to find their bank accounts, their investment accounts, checking accounts, life insurance policies, property tax information, and utilities. So these are all things you as an executor will be working on. There could be a life insurance policy where you and the other heirs are entitled to a little bit of money or sometimes quite a bit of money. This is really a difficult step because what I found working with a lot of clients is that mom or dad wasn't really organized. And so you might find some of the paper in the desk, you might find some of the paperwork in the file cabinet, and you might find some in the kitchen drawer. And it's very difficult and stressful. You don't want to throw things away until you're pretty sure you have gone through everything and found these things. Because it's very important to know what your parents were dealing with so that you can wrap up the estate. So once you've got all the paperwork, it's time really to clean out the estate, clean out the house. And this you're going to really want to do in stages. So the first stage would be to approach your family members and give them what the will says that you should give them, personal property wise. An example of this might be, my firstborn grandson should get my car, and you'd want to transfer title to that grandson. But there is a lot of personal property in the house that is just there. It's not written about at all in the will. So that type of thing, you're going to want to give to siblings and work that out with them. Who wants what? That type of a thing, and kind of gift this out to also friends who you and your siblings agree, should have it. That type of thing. When all of that stuff is divvied up, then it's really time to have a sale, maybe a garage sale, maybe an estate sale. And I know a number of really good estate sale companies that will come in, set up the house, put tags on everything, and run a sale right there in the home for you. There's other companies that will take away the valuable items and sell it at their facility or online, and then they earn a commission. So this is a good way of trying to realize some value from the personal property in the house. And that's something you're going to want to consider. Then once those valuables, let's say, have been sold off, you're left with stuff nobody wants really and can't be sold. So you're going to want to get that stuff out onto the curb, or if it's too much, there are cleanout companies. And again, I have some really good cleanout companies that can do this for you. You could call them up, they come in for a fee, they just remove everything. So give me a call on that. They're much cheaper than some of the other companies that advertise, and they're very, very good. So then you've got kind of a clean house, and your next step is sort of determining, well, do I want to sell this house as is, or do I want to renovate it or repair it? Renovation, I think, is generally a bad idea. Sometimes I recommend renovation, but usually I don't. A renovation is quite costly. You could be putting in a new kitchen or new bath. You could spend 10 or 20,000 on something like this, and now you have raised the risk of that sale. Now you have to get 20,000 more for the house, and you might not. Um, so I think renovations are usually a bad bet. Now repairs, if they're minor and inexpensive, you could do if they're going to help move the sale along. Things like leaky faucets, leaky toilets, painting, uh, decluttering, part of the cleaning process, cleaning carpets, part of the cleaning process, um, some light landscaping. These are little things that are like cost zero or just a little bit of money that help push the sale along. You could consider doing something like that. Um, that might be a good investment of time and money. Um, and then when you're ready to get the house on the market, you have to price it. And this is where I can really help. A lot of my clients are very attached to the family home, but you have to kind of be brutally honest with yourself as to the condition and comping it out. And you want to take a look at the range of values in the immediate neighborhood for that type of home. What's the low? What's the high? What's the average? And where does your house fit in on that spectrum? And that's really the way you price it. And you have to be unbiased and you have to be very honest with yourself as to where it falls on the spectrum. Once you have a contract, the next step is closing and probate court again. So as part of the contract, some of my executors would like to put subject to attorney review, just to have their attorney give the contract a look before going to probate court. And that's fine. Some executors don't really care, but that is up to you. But what you do want to put in there is subject to probate court approval, because usually the court wants to approve the sale. They want to make sure that the value is at least close to market value so that the heirs are getting their fair share. The good thing is this approval normally fits nicely with the escrow process. The escrow normally takes like 30 to 40 days, and that approval can usually be done within 20 to 30 days. So there's usually no delay. And then once you're ready for closing, make sure to have that appointment letter ready for the title company. Make sure that you have your estate bank account ready and your estate tax ID number ready. All those three things are going to be needed for closing. And that's kind of the full overview of the probate process. So I'd like to be your resource for this. If you are running into questions and you're dealing with your own probate issues on a house that you're selling for mom or dad or a loved one or even a friend who's trusted you to be their executor, feel free to give me a call, a text, or an email. I'll help walk you through any issue that you're dealing with. So hope you found this helpful. If you did, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks.